you want to talk a little bit about what has happened with, the business over the last 4 weeks? And
Yeah, so we had a few staff members that leave, which was kind of like a little bit unexpected, and it just really confused me at the time because I literally didn't see it coming. And
in the meantime, wish your family.
if you asked me if I'd done this podcast fresh off the bat, you would have seen this mad, bitter person, and I've been saying the most petty things. And the first question I wrote down was like, where did I go wrong? And if you ask me now, I'm just kind of at peace with it. You just have to be self-aware and understanding what had happened.
I just want to thank Scope for doing it that way, because I sit here now and I'm excited for change. I'm excited for future.
Everyone that's left YKTR has gone on to do great things, but I still found myself like a little bit lost because you put so much time and effort and energy into a business, and you give people opportunities and you watch them grow. Just felt like an element of sadness that there's just a chapter closing. A lot of the guys I've hired in the past have either been like my friends or people with like childhood trauma that I feel like I could help.
is that going to change going forward?
What it really means to live life golden. Yeah, we're golden, baby girl, we're golden. They're about to see us shine, cause we're golden. They can never break us down, cause we're golden. They're about to see us glow.
Before we dive into the episode, I just want to say a massive thank you to the Startup Diaries community. We just surpassed 200 reviews on Spotify, which is a huge milestone. If you had said that this is where we would be when I first started, I probably would have laughed in your face. But the reason that we've been able to grow and have so many amazing guests on is because of you guys tuning in every week and supporting the show, whether that's with reviews, liking the videos, commenting, sharing on socials. All of that stuff really, really helps. And we do plan to take things to the next level this year. We have some massive plans. I can't share those with you right now. But if there is something that you can do to continue to help support the show, it's definitely hitting the subscribe button. And we look forward to sharing our plans with you in the future. All right, we'll get back to the episode. Ice, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, bro. I had a great time on there last time, and I look back on that micro content sometimes, and Jade Spooner's one that always stands out. So pumped to be back on, bro, and congratulations for all the changes, all the success, and baby on the way. So congratulations, bro.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Life's definitely
Moving quick.
It's a big year, man. I feel like I say this to everyone that asks, but like we're actually renovating a house in about 2 weeks, and we've got 3 months in between that and the baby, and then business is kind of rolling. So
Are you excited about all the chaos? Does it excite you? Or
mate, like I think the biggest thing for me with all of this is just like I'm probably going to push myself this year more than I ever have, and I think that's just what it's about, really. Like you can handle as much as you think you can handle, and I think we'll either learn a lot, make a few mistakes along the way, but it's an exciting year more than anything.
Fucking F. Congratulations, bro.
Mate, so I've got you at an interesting time. I mean, you've obviously gone through, over the last month, there's just a lot of change that's coming your way, and something that I know at the time would have been a bit of a shock to the system, but, like anything, there's an opportunity that kind of comes from any kind of turbulent time or any kind of change that you kind of is thrust upon you. But do you want to talk a little bit about, what has happened with, the business over the last 4 weeks? And I think, you've been in business for a while now, and so have I. You kind of know that this stuff just happens, and you do go through these kind of cycles where things change and so on. And I think the conversation is a good one for founders to understand, because when you first get into business, you kind of just like blinded to like this side of it is like, okay, hang on, I actually have to manage, I have to operate, I have to manage the business, I have to manage people, and sometimes things don't go to plan, or these kind of things are just there's like these rapid changes that are just thrust upon you.
So it's like we had a few staff members that leave, which was kind of like a little bit unexpected, and it just really confused me at the time because I literally didn't see it coming. And if you asked me if I'd done this podcast fresh off the bat, you would have seen this mad, bitter person, and I've been saying the most petty things, and I've got that in me. Like, I've got that element of ego in me. If you ask me a week later, like, I would have understood the situation. And if you ask me now, I'm just kind of at peace with it and see the excitement of the opportunities in the white space. And one of the first things I did was the next day I went in, and I always have this whiteboard that I always write shit on. And the first question I wrote down was like, where did I go wrong? And then it was like, basically like this mirror comes up in front of you, and you just have to be self-aware and understanding what had happened. But in the context of life, nothing crazy, but in the context of business, it felt like everything.
Yeah.
And as a business owner, you'd understand this. And a lot of the guys I've hired in the past have either been like my friends, or people with like childhood trauma that I feel like I could help. And that was kind of my two measuring sticks of like, in my mind, I was just making up stuff like, oh, you've come into my life for a reason, so I can help you and build. And everyone that's left YKTR has gone on to do great things, but I still felt myself like a little bit lost because you put so much time and effort and energy into a business, and you give people opportunities and you watch them grow. It's just sad to see them leave. And that's all it was. I was just more so sad to see them leave because it felt like kind of like your last week of high school, where you look around you and everyone's kind of in the same vibe, and like you're leaving and you're all going to go off and do different things, and hopefully everyone does great things and successful. But it just felt like that. It just felt like an element of sadness that there's just a chapter closing, and that's all it was. I'm someone who's read many books in my life, and chapters close sometimes and new ones open. And I probably, the way I processed it was organic to how I was at the time, and I'm glad I went through that. But I sit here now, it's probably the lightest I've ever felt. You know what I mean? Yeah, I feel light, I feel free. I feel like the person who got into entrepreneurship for these reasons was because I enjoyed ideas and conceptualizing them and turning them into product or service. And like my last week, the amount of stuff I've come up with is like, I'm starting to feel like myself again.
Yeah. Can you just give everybody an insight into the business and kind of how it operated in a sense?
Yeah.
Give them because I think the thing that I'd be interested is like, that's the thing that I noticed is like, honestly, everybody that has come into the YKTR system has kind of gone on to, they've obviously grown a lot, gained a lot of skills, and to a point where, you know, they're you know, have the ability to go out and you know, do their own thing, or they're getting headhunted, you know, and kind of brought into other systems.
So basically we started as a clothing company, got kind of big through vlogging, and I started podcasting on my own and saw there was sort of value in it. I didn't really like how sports media was run at the time. It was very much based off journalism and storytelling, and didn't always have to be true. And once I understood the media model, I kind of like, all right, we can do something different. So YKTR Sports was built off the ethos of just trying to be more so like player to fan and fan to player. So we just created like podcasts and shows. We really originally wanted to do like documentary style stuff. COVID hit us, everyone moved towards podcasts because it was the easiest thing to do. And we kind of built this show from there, and we had a couple NRL players talking about football in a week, and that's kind of what it was. It was just a media company that had an eye on trying to change the sports narrative or how players were perceived, or just kind of like a fuck you to normal media. We were just kind of over it, that we wanted to change that sort of space. And like you said, like a lot of the boys have come through, picked up skill sets through that, which has been great, but either got headhunted or chased their own dreams, and just it is what it is.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, look, there's an element always to it where you're like, you want that for people, right? Like you said, you bring people in and you've kind of had that mentality of like, okay, I'm bringing my friends in, giving them an opportunity, or you're bringing people in that, you know, have some sort of trauma and you feel like you can help them. I guess a question that I would have is like, is that going to change going forward, you know, or do you look at it and go, you still obviously want to bring people in for, you know, and give them opportunities, but is there an element of you now that kind of looks back and said, not that you would change anything, but more like, okay, do you bring people in that already have the skills, that already have, you know, they're already at that higher level where they can take the business forward? Because that's something that I think is like there's positives and negatives to both, and that's something I'm just interested in with yourself, is like how you're looking at it now.
Yeah, so like probably that second part of that, how you sort of framed that question, was you bring in people who probably better than you. That I think your job as a business owner is to hire the best people, and if they're better than you in certain scenarios, even better. And like you'll find like a lot of people will go out and try and start a business and find they love the comfort of a salary. So maybe I'm starting to position like those roles for those types of people. But would I do it again? I think I would, but I would just do it like a little bit smarter. I think like contract wise, I wasn't as secure as I should have been. It wasn't like a consequence for anyone leaving. I didn't have any non-competes. I didn't have any buyout clauses or anything along those lines. And you look at something like marriage, like people say till death do us part, but 50% end up in divorce, you know what I mean? And the reason why contracts are in place is for, if you leave this marriage, there's going to be a reason for it, or if you cheat, you're going to lose half, and that's why sort of contracts need to be in place. But I think at the core essence of it, I get my highest value or kick out of trying to help people. And we're sort of talking about on the last podcast is like, instead of me actively trying to help people around me, maybe just focus on myself and then let helping people be a byproduct of content. So if I focus on myself, make the best version I can be of myself, and I hit enter and that content goes out to the world and they're inspired by that, I think that's kind of like a better way to do it. Because I found whenever I try to like rely on people, or I put my values or expectations on people, which isn't fair in the first place, I always find myself getting let down, you know what I mean? And it's kind of been like this cycle where I'm always trying to help people that are close to me. They got no money, or I'm paying them out of debt, or like helping them with suicide and paying for their therapy. I always find myself get too emotionally attached to it, which is bad in business. So when it does happen, it's like, oh fuck, I'm the one sitting there like sulking. So it's been a massive lesson.
Do you think, like, okay, so, and this is just a question, do you think that was a byproduct of you having, like, these guys are your mates in a sense? Like, so like, you know, because you were saying you were just having some of those conversations around like helping these people with, you know, or your employees in a sense, like, or your staff members, you're having conversations with them about things that, you know, maybe the everyday, you know, founder / manager doesn't have with their employees, like with things that are going on in their personal life. Like maybe sometimes that does happen, but I would assume that, as you guys were mates, it kind of can, you're probably getting sucked into that stuff as well.
Yeah, for sure. Like in my heart of hearts, I thought this was a good thing at the time, but I remember whenever I used to hire someone, whether I know them or not, I used to sit them down in my office and go, bro, if you ever need anything, like, let me know. Like, if you need money, if you need a place to crash, if you've got no food, come to my house, I can feed you. Just if I don't know, I can't help you. There was always used to say that. If I don't know, I can't help you. And literally every time I said that, like next day someone would come through. I was trying to fix people's relationships. We had Caleb on the other day and he tried to commit suicide while he was at our office. So I was always careful how I was speaking to him, because in my mind, if I said something bad to him and he went home and killed himself, I'd just been sitting there like, fuck, I have to live with this for the rest of my life. Yeah. But then also trying to protect him but not trying to affect the culture. It was just this thing, bro. It was just like I was just trying to juggle everyone else's problems and probably took the eye off like the ball myself, in terms of I got into business to build cool businesses and cool ideas and do stuff like this. I just felt like a therapist and a counselor and a parent sometimes. You know what I mean? Had people with like hitting me up for like drug debt and stuff. It was a fucking shambles. But in my mind, I always thought like, oh, if I can help them in their personal life, when they come to work, they're going to be excited to work. And probably the thing is I just gave too much. Like they'd come in, I'd buy them a brand new laptop. Most of them become pretty well known through the content. So they just had it all laid out for them. And no one really had to kind of work for it, which fucking like regretted a little bit later. Like even we go out for dinners, I'll pay for everything. We're going on big holidays, I was paying for everything. You know what I mean? They just kind of expected it from you, and it's probably something I'll never do again. Yeah.
I think like it is such a hard dichotomy when you're a small business, like and you are a small team, like, because you do want that family feeling to it, and you do want that closeness, that culture that you aspire to have in any business. But then I feel like the catch-22 is as well, like, you can't get too far down that way, or and even what you were talking about before, like, I would say probably only in the last 18 months myself have really started to really understand structure and how you structure a company, and what you talked about contracts before, like just how important that is, that side of it. Because I feel like, and again, this is just me, my own learnings as well, is like that can often dictate how that relationship grows, because you do need some sort of transaction there, if that makes sense. And that's just something that I've learned. Like, what would you say your are your biggest kind of business lessons, the core kind of business lessons that you've learned kind of going through this, and how that will affect what you do going forward?
Yeah, like I'll always try and challenge like the narrative, and like one of the ones was like never go into business with your friends, and I used to always go like, why not, like, you know what I mean? And sort of get into a scenario like this, and you're like, oh, this is why. And reason why things become cliches because they're usually true, and they're usually true over a long period of time. So I think the biggest lessons I've had is just to purely keep business and sort of friends. And like you said, the contract stuff's really important, structure. In my mind, I thought like just being a good person and trying to help these boys out would be enough for them to stay. And it's not like I always wanted them to stay there forever, but there's just, like we said before, there's no consequence for leaving. There was no contractual like binding thing like, all right, if you leave, you can't do a podcast for a year. Because in my heart, I thought that was going to be like a bad, like that felt yuck to me. Like I didn't want to control anyone. I didn't want to own anyone. I felt like there's room for everyone to grow. But it's almost like that saying, like, if you give yourself enough rope, you can hang yourself, that sort of saying. So, like, I never wanted to be a micromanager, but I actually don't know, bro. Like, I'm still sitting there trying to process it and trying to think of, like, the takeaways. And I get the business ones. I understand them now, but more so, like, the personal ones have kind of been the ones trying to deal with first. Because if you deal with those first, business can be easy if you need it to be. If you're not right on yourself, then business becomes a little bit shaky.
Do you think, this is an interesting question for you, do you think people like are selfish by nature?
Everyone's, yeah, of course. Everyone's values should be to protect themselves. Like, and probably the big lesson, one of the lessons I learned is like everyone changes too. So the types of conversations I was having with these people, they changed. Like what they were saying at the time was true, but that was true for them at the time. Yeah. And then you want people to grow. Like, I've grown, I've changed. I don't want to be having the same conversation. So you just got to let people be who they are, and everyone's natural instinct is to kind of look after themselves. Like, and it's my natural instinct. I'm not passing it on like judgment to anyone, but it should be. Yeah, survival's 100%. Like, you know what I mean? You got to look after yourself first.
Yeah, and I think that's something as well that even I've learned is like everybody will, like when it comes down to it, and I think that's why, these contracts and so on, like are so important. And you can understand, like, I look at like big corporate companies in a sense, and like, the contracts that, those guys are handling are like airtight. And you kind of, and I my whole, like, again, like growth over the last 2 years has been like, okay, well, I would have said like 3-4 years ago that I was like, oh, why is that in there? You know what I mean? Like that's ridiculous. But I think like, and then, coming back to that point is like, everybody will look after themselves at the end of the day, no matter how loyal or good you've been to them, and as a business owner, the hard part of this is you've got to manage the relationship with people, but then you've also got to manage, what's best for the business as well, which is like the biggest, that I find that's a really hard dichotomy as you're building a team. Yeah,
for sure. And like, that's probably the good one. Like one, like you got into business for a reason. So one, look after your business first, and two, look after yourself. And then you can look after like everyone else. And like I said, like I was too friendly with a lot of my staff members. So whenever I move into this next phase, whether it be, and we talked about AI a little bit before, but it's just purely going to be subcontracted and just like, all right, we're in business together. This is what we're going to do. Let's sign a contract and keep it clean. And then keep your friends on the side. You keep your family on the side. It's just a better way to do it. And it sort of breaks up your world, because my world was all intertwined. My mates were the guys I worked with. I kind of had no, and I thought I wanted that at the time. Like I didn't want to like compartmentalize my life where work's work, this is blah, but sort of just got too intertwined with everything, and people got comfortable, and obviously you build confidence working at YKTR. People start to recognize who you are, so they've just taken that skill set and gone elsewhere and do it, and I wish them all the best too.
Yeah. And so how do you like I watched the content that you did personally when it was all going on. How did you manage, and I think this is a big one, and I've had a lot of conversations lately around mental health, and just how difficult that is to manage, I reckon, when you're a founder, because you have 100,000 thoughts going through your head at any one point in time. But how did you manage that for yourself, you know, at the same time as knowing that you had to address it, you know, to your community? Because you guys show everything, and I think that's great. You know, like personally, I look at it and have always admired it, because I know that there is always a lot going on, but you guys have always been amazing at it. But you know, when you're going through that, especially while it was fresh, you know, how did you manage that for yourself? You know, that process of going, okay, we're going to have to address this. We're going to have to, you know, create content around it, you know, or with the community, but also going, okay, well, you know, mentally, this is obviously a challenging time.
I've always found, like, we're a brand that's kind of always been in drama, which, like, I don't really like, and most of the time it's never really been me in it, but like, obviously when you run the brand you have to sort of front it. But I've always found in those scenarios being open and vulnerable is probably like the best way to be light. And when you talked about being in a business owner, 1,000 things going through your head, but you've always got like you get like these psychological scars through business that, like, people who work 9 to 5, like sometimes I look at someone who works 9 to 5 and envy, like, they get to go home at 5 and not think about work or anything like that. Where over the past couple of years, we've been through scenarios where like big debt, owing people because all our stuff's been caught up in water, and COVID, where we almost got out of business and we had to pay like a $500,000 invoice. Like, I've been through all those scenarios, but psychologically you're still scarred from those. And like, it's just kind of like you said, like that sort of business owner mentality, it's hard. And then in terms of mental health, like, you think, all right, this is my business, I need to protect it. When I wake up in the morning, because I get up early, like 3:30, 4, like, I'd go to work straight away, and that's not the best way to look after it. If you don't look after yourself first, you can't solve anyone else's problems. So even waking up and like going for a run, exercising, jumping in the water, talking to people that are smarter than you and being in that situation, because a lot of times when you get in trouble, especially in business, you think, oh, why is this happening to me? But it's happening to everyone. Everyone's got staff issues. Everyone has staff members leaving. We're all struggling in business. But a lot of the times when you're in those moments, you feel like it's all on you, and you're like, oh, why is this happening to me? But it's actually not. It's very common. But I always found, because like, you know, the fight or flight response, whenever I was struggling, I'll just go straight into work, and this is how I'll get out of it. I'll work out 60 hours an hour a day. I write out everything. This is how I solve things. And I sort of realized that you don't really need to do that. You just need to look after yourself first, and you need a clear mind. Once you've got a clear mind, once you remove emotion, once you remove all that sort of stuff, the solutions start to come. And the universe starts to go, all right, yeah. Like the day I accepted the scenario for what it was, and I'd done the second podcast, like, big tax return coming. Like, you know what I mean? Like, once you accept the problem, things start to happen. You start to see a solution, and you start to move towards that. And like, a big thing is about opportunity cost in business, and what are you sacrificing. For every hour I was spending moping or getting angry or sulking, is probably now I'm taking away from problem solving or solutions or being creative. So I just got to a point where I just accepted it for what it was, and kind of things just happened from there.
Yeah, it's a good point. Like, I think it's almost like Calluses and war stories, right? Like, you know, I did like like at the end of last year, I was just stressed out crazily, and I was on this like course app thing. It was like some, you know, a mindset guy, and one of the best exercises that he said to do is like, you draw your life along a squiggly timeline, but you draw like the different events that you can remember all through your life. And the best thing about it was, you look back and you go, shit time, amazing time, amazing time, amazing time, shit time, amazing time. And it's like, I think, like, obviously in the moment when these things happen, it can be really, really tough. But one of the things that it teaches you when you do this exercise is retrospect.
Yeah.
It's like, you can look back and you can say that every good time you've ever had was born on the back of a really, really tough time. And I think, you know, like that, and I think that's the point that you were kind of mentioning then, is like, look, this kind of bad situation has happened, but inevitably you got to move forward.
Yeah.
And when you decide that, or when you accept, you know, what's going on, and you kind of take the stress out of the situation, you can kind of start to see what are the opportunities here? You know, what are these next steps that we can take?
Because emotion's fucked. Like I heard someone talk about this one time where like say you get jealous or angry, it actually lowers your IQ by half. So and the other time your IQ is lowered by half is when you're drinking. So when you're really happy and you're excited and someone goes, let's go for a hike on Saturday, and you're like, yeah, let's go. And when you're drunk and you're in that same sort of state, you're saying the same sort of things, don't you? And then say jealousy is another emotion. Like people try and differentiate emotions, like, oh, it's okay to be happy, but don't be sad and jealous because it's like perceived as negative, but it's still a chemical imbalance in your body. So when you're jealous and angry, you say stupid things that you don't really mean. And the other times when you're drunk, like you could have an argument with your girlfriend, it's because your IQ sort of lowered. So once you sort of accept it and pull back, like you said, like we said, like it starts to pave the way for the future, and you just sort of move lighter, you move free, and you can just see it like a lot clearer. And whenever there's chaos in the market or anything in life, the opposite of that is calm. So if you're chaos here, you want to bring yourself back to calm. And polarity is a big one, like you sort of talked about. Like if it wasn't for the rain, the sun wouldn't feel so good, all that sort of stuff. And pattern recognition, like that sort of path you talked about. When I look back on my life, whenever it felt like I was just about to give up, free from gold, there's always that next little phase where we went boom.
Yeah. Do you think that is inevitably what entrepreneurship it really is like, I think you only get better as you build more calluses in a sense.
Yeah,
like
for sure. Like I always say, entrepreneurs more so about persistency than IQ. But we love to position ourselves as people that are smart because we've gone against the norm and we want to start something new. But I think the true characteristics of an entrepreneur is persistence, because it's fucking hard. Like if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. Like I said, those psychological stars you have from owing someone $500,000 or a kid trying to commit suicide and like while you're at work, you know what I mean? You sort of carry that stuff with you. So it's meant to be hard.
Yeah, and you do build calluses. You learn how to deal with stress in different ways, whether, you know, sometimes it can be money, just dealing with bigger numbers, dealing with more people, you know, dealing with more people is more issues always, you know.
I don't know what the biggest stress is, like money or like staff issues, you know what I mean? Because I do think the world's changing very quickly. Like people want to be light and free and have the ability to travel whenever. And like what I talked about on the last podcast, like our parents just wanted a safe job and they wanted to work there for 30, 40 years and retire and pick up, where we want to be light, moving and going. And obviously the consequence for that is people like us who want to hire people and build long-term businesses. It's like realistically they're not going to be there for a long time. If you can keep them for 2-3 years, great. And if they leave in a better spot, even better.
Yeah, and I think it also like that's a really good point. Not everyone's going to be with you forever. And I think that's a big lesson, you know, like who got you to where you are now is not going to be necessarily who gets you to where you want to go. And I think you want to keep everyone forever, and that's something that you always want. And that's why, like, when someone leaves or you have to fire someone or anything like that, that is like I mean, you get better at it as time goes by, and again, it's these calluses, but it's like, it is such a big thing. And I often think about that is like, and even now more so than ever for us, it's like, if someone leaves, it's not the end of the world, no matter what the terms are. You know what I mean?
They're not doing it to hurt your feelings either, because that's the little phase I went through too. I was like, nah, fuck this dude. You know what I mean? He's trying to hurt me here. Yeah, they're just doing it to better themselves. Like we said earlier, like everyone's out there to look after themselves, and there's so much opportunity out there in the world, bro. So much opportunity. Like our parents were happy to have that safe job and lock that in, where you might do this and 2 years from now you might be, all right, cool, I want to go do this now. And we've got that freedom about us where we can do it through the internet, and obviously like AI and shit's coming through soon too. So it's just a changing time, and we've got to accept the change, because if we don't, we just get stuck in the past. You get stuck in the past, you get left behind. Yeah.
I think the thing I'm excited about, just looking at, I know you're a creative guy, and I know you're in ideas. You know, you're always thinking. With all the opportunities on the table right now, what's the next iteration look like? Because you're almost at a blank canvas now, where it's like you've got a brand, right? Yeah. So it's not like blank canvas, no brand. When you start a business, blank canvas, got a brand, it's reputable. Which means that you're in a really good position to capitalize. What is the next iteration? You know, what are the opportunities that you're looking at and going, you know, it's going to be a bit different?
This is where I fucked up. So like a couple of years ago, like everything come easy to us. Like it'd been a couple of years of hard work, and then everything just went bang. Like was selling out. What I did was I went wider, I didn't go deeper. So what I mean by that is like, say I work at Macca's and the Big Mac's flying. And instead of us going, all right, let's order more Big Macs, I go, oh, let's go make fucking 20 other burgers. And that's where I fucked up, where you look at someone like G'd Up.
Yep.
They had their product, they got the team logo, they nailed it, they went deep, and then they can make an impact through there. Where we were in that similar position where we were selling out in like minutes and we couldn't even hold stock. Instead of me doubling down on product, I went like a little bit too wider. So I enjoy many aspects of business and content creation and stuff like that. But instead of me focusing on myself and YKTR, I try to focus on everyone else. Instead of me focus on clothing, I try to build a sports media company. And the consequence for that was I took my eye off the golden goose. I took my eye off what actually worked for us. I took my eye off what I actually got into business for, entrepreneurship and creating ideas and turning them into product, or have marketing stories that people feel inspired by. I went away from my true version of myself to try and please everyone else. But now I just got to go back to that. And that's how I see it. Instead of us trying to pivot and move away, we go back to what works and double down.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. So what you're saying is kind of when you've got something that really works, instead of going on to the next idea, focus on doubling down, doing more of what you've already done really well.
And it's hard when you're creative and you think, because you're like, oh, I can do something better. You just start thinking like that all the time. But like the market don't lie. That's the number one. Data doesn't lie. Market don't lie. If it's working, rinse it. Like go as deep as you can, build more people into your system, and then come up with something else later. Like G'd Up are the best example of it. And they're across the road from us in our same office block. And like Paco just nailed it, bro. And he just nailed it. He found his market. Boom. See you later.
Yeah.
And he's buying Rolls Royces and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah,
I'm not inspired by cars or anything like that, but he had an idea and he executed it. And that's what I'm most proud of him for. Like he figured it out and just went bang and done it.
Yeah, and they actually spoke about that on the podcast that I did with them as well. It was like they probably had an opportunity to do more, or generate more revenue and kind of go away from that like drop, sell out model. But they said, and I think this is a good point, they were kind of talking about their brand and really what they wanted to stand for, and slowing growth down, so that they've got more longevity in what they do. And I found that very interesting because I feel like that would be such a hard decision to make.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think that's what you're talking about. It's that deeper, go deeper and not wider. And we've got the same accountant, Danny.
Oh, Danny's the guy.
He's the man.
Yeah. Does he sponsor this podcast?
Pardon?
Does he sponsor this podcast?
Nah, not yet.
Might give him a rap.
But they're great. But like that's honestly like I'm the same, right? I've got a million ideas and I want to do them all right now. I think that's one of the good things about having, say, someone like Danny in your corner, right? Is like he'll slow you down and just be like, oh, you could just focus on this for now, right?
Yeah.
But I think
a lot of the time, but you have to learn, like all the stuff that's happened to me that's fucked up. People were telling me this was going to happen. And like I was just sitting there going, I can I'm not that guy. I can figure this out.
Yeah.
A lot of the times you just have to learn on your own. Like you have to learn to walk on your own. You can show, like your parents can show you your brother walking or stuff like that. You just got to get up and fall down and get up and fall down. Not let it define you, but you just got to make your own mistakes.
I think as well, like the other thing, and I'd love to get your opinion on this, is like when you companies are doing, like you can sell one product and you can probably do like $5 million just selling one product if you really wanted to. But when you haven't dealt with that level of money before, going through that kind of period, you don't understand how big a business can truly get. Like you think about like a $500 million company in a sense, and like they might have 6 products. Like if you were to skew or look at the average amount of, capital generated per product, it's huge. And I feel like that's another thing, like getting exposed to more and more and more or bigger business is another thing that I've learned is like
you don't need a lot, eh?
Nah, like you don't need to have a bazillion products to get to $10 million.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you're talking about as well. Is like just go deeper, push harder on the thing you do, exhaust it. And when you think you're exhausting it, maybe even go a bit further just to make sure. Because you can feel like you're exhausted, but really you just haven't dealt with this kind of capacity before.
Like rinsed it all the way out. And like, people get scared about that because they might feel like they're not cool anymore. But my example for this is like, when you go to a nice restaurant, it's a nice restaurant because they got one page. You know what I mean? There's one page, they've got 4 things that they do. You know it's going to be good. You go to like somewhere else, even buffets, where you've got a 50. You can't do that many things that well. And you know Pareto's law, the 80-20 rule?
Yeah.
Even us, like when I look at our data, like our high selling stuff is like hoodies and t-shirts. 82% of our sales are hoodies and t-shirts. So for me to go out and start manufacturing, like spending 6 months manufacturing pants or stuff like that, it's just kind of like, not what's the point? You still want to have that offering, but like you just want to focus on what really makes you money. And most businesses will be like this. A lot of the people I talk to in the fashion space, very similar. Like they'll go, like let's use Macca's for example. Like say Big Mac's the biggest flying one. They'll have that really deep, but they'll still offer a salad and shit just to please everyone else. So customer facing, when you're on the website, user experience, like they've got all these options, but nah, we sell burgers. We're deep in this category. Where I was trying to go like, this is working. Let's put everything even, and it just doesn't work like that.
Nah, and it's also like the more products you have, or the different things you do, you don't realize. And I mean, you realize it once you feel it as a business, but it's like there's operations that you have to build around these things, right? And it's like if you're doing 50 things, it's so hard. And like I can even, like even with our business now, like there's certain things in our business that are so easy to deliver because we've built everything to deliver this one thing. And the second you put something else in, and this is like you can even think about margins, you do one thing really, really well and you get really, really good at it, your margins get better as you do more of it. But when you start to do a lot of different things, you have to have different people or with different skill sets and different processes and so on.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's kind of coming back to that capacity thing, right? It's like, I could have probably juiced another $1 million out of this, or another 2 mil in revenue, from doing this thing deeper, like you said, rather than wider.
Yeah, and like you'll get that like element of success as well, but I'll probably learn more from not doing that
100%.
now, you know what I mean? And this will set me up for the next sort of 10, 20 years where I've been in this scenario before. And I always give examples of like there's so many lessons you can read about, and there's how many business books are there, how many self-development books are there. But I'm sort of always referring back to the psychological styles of running a business. It's like, remember the first time you got your heart broken? Remember what it was like to go to dinner on an empty stomach? You can read about this shit all you want, but unless you go through it, you can't really relate back to that time. And now these last couple of years, I've got that foundation of fuck-ups and failures and psychological scars that like will set me up for this next little period. And it's hard to see at the time, but like you sort of said with that path, you've got evidence, you've got enough pattern recognition to understand like, this is just the next phase of what I'm trying to go through.
Yeah, and the beauty of being an entrepreneur is you write the story, right? So once you realize that and you can accept everything that's happened prior to this very moment, you've got the opportunity to write what happens next. And your actions in the moment or how you feel, we were talking about emotions before, they will dictate that next chapter, right? So if you hold a grudge for a long period of time and you don't accept what's going on, you're basically fucked.
Yeah, you wasted your energy. Such a waste of energy. And like I remember, like even that past couple, like I was angry for 2 days, and I was just like, I got to the end of the week, I was so
done.
drained.
Yeah.
I was just like, I was thinking like, how can I get these guys back through not through content or anything. Like in my mind, I was like, fuck them. And this is ego. Like, I want to build a business 10 times bigger than theirs, or a podcast. Like you go through those sort of ways, but then afterwards, you're just like, waste of time, waste of energy.
Team, if you're loving this episode and you want to help support the show so that we can continue to grow and share the wisdom of amazing individuals, please remember to go hit the subscribe button. You have no idea how much it helps us. Team, just a short break. I want to say a massive shout out to our major sponsors, BizCover. They are a big reason why we get to do what we do every single week. These guys are professionals, they care about your business, and they care about the business and startup community, which is something that I really love and a reason why we chose to partner with them. And plus, they make the process of getting your company insured super seamless, which is really important with such a tedious process. I've been a customer now for 10 years. I have made claims. It has been super easy. As I said, with such a tedious process, these guys are the best in the business. As part of the Startup Diaries community, they have given us a promo code, which is Pivotal25, getting $25 off your business insurance policy. Make sure you head over to bizcover.com.au. The link is in the show notes. Get your company insured with a great company. We'll head back to the episode now. We're kind of talking about the next iteration, and we were having a chat about AI before, and just what we think the future is going to look like. What's your view on this? What's happening in AI at the moment? Is it changing the way you're thinking about building YKTR from here on in?
Yeah.
I'd love to kind of dive into that.
Yeah, for sure. So like we sort of talked about, everyone's kind of been a lot more about themselves lately. So what you'll find is people start to build businesses in around themselves, and even when you hire staff, they might hang around you, get inspired by it, and they're going to leave. So to sort of do that, like the best way to, in my opinion, is to either just subcontract, which is like person to person, which you can deal with now. But I think AI is going to be the big one that sort of takes over. And I've found some programs now that cost me $50 a month, which I was paying like a couple K for some of the boys to do. And a lot of it's just around content and captions and stuff like that. But in my mind, like with AI, unemotional. Don't have to pay super, don't have to pay taxes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't break up with anyone, no mental health issues or anything along those lines. It's just a program that's going to help you. Even ChatGPT, which is kind of like the hot thing at the moment, I've been using that for the past couple months, and I've built out like online courses through it. I've built out podcast structures through it. I've built out contracts through law through it, and I've sent them to my lawyer friends, and they hold up like solid. So you know what I mean? And someone sort of said that ChatGPT is like a calculator for words, where we use, like, we don't need to know long division anymore because we've got a calculator in front of us. We don't really need to know contract or planning or anything anymore because we've got ChatGPT in front of us. So there's always going to be an element of person to person there somewhere, but I think AI just speeds everything up, and it's unemotional. Doesn't think, doesn't feel, no super, no tax. Doesn't ask for holidays. You can hit them up at 9:30 at night. You can tap in. It's going to give you an answer straight away. So it's exciting. Like, a lot of people are going to hear this and they're going to go, "Fuck, I'm out of a job." But people, in the context of every part of life, all the guys with the right ideas have always used some form of labor, whether it's human labor, even back in the day, like slave labor, or in the farming industry, it was cow. Now we've got AI to use as labor. Everything is just going to be a lot quicker. And once everyone recognises it, the cream's always going to rise to the top. Whoever's the best, whoever's the smartest, they're always going to rise to the top. That's just the way history works.
Yeah, it's so true. Like, it's funny.
Sorry, when I bring up AI, does it scare you or excite you?
Oh, me, I'm so excited about it.
Yeah.
So excited. Like, I love it. Like, I think, like you said, like it's an opportunity for everybody, but only some will take it, right? Like, I had a guy reach out to me probably about 18 months ago, and he said he was not a financial advisor, but like I don't know, like their assistant or something like that, like qualified, but and he said to me, he's like, "Man, I'm fucking really scared about AI." This was 18 months ago, right? And he goes, "Can you," and like, I'm not an expert at it, but he was like, "Hey man, like, what do you think? How long do I have left?" Like, he's talking like this. And I was like, dude, just fucking relax. Like, if you're thinking, like, you just need to understand that AI is only going to make you better. Like, I talk about it like with ChatGPT. Like, yeah, I can use it to write articles, but am I a writer? Like, do I know it, me as an individual, do I know that what ChatGPT is actually sending to me or writing for me is actually a great article? I'm not a writer. No, there's no way. I can't tell, but a writer could, right? And so I was having a chat to one of our content writers, and he hasn't really looked at it, and I'm like, bro,
you're wasting your time.
I'm like, man, honestly, imagine you took advantage of this. I go, how long does it take you to write an article? He's like, I don't know, maybe 6 hours. I'm like, cool. How many can you do a week? What do you charge? And he was like, X. And I'm like, cool, so that's what you can make right now. I go, if you use ChatGPT, you could probably write 4 in the space of 1.
Yeah.
So you could literally quadruple the amount of income that you bring in from fucking using ChatGPT. And because you're a writer, you can review all of its content and you can actually prompt it to get a better result than what I can, who's not a writer. Yeah. So like, that's how I think of it, is like, it will just supercharge you.
Yeah, for sure. And like the same thing that I talked about before, when things I felt like were bad happening to me, emotional. So that guy was like fearful because he's a thing. So if you're fearful, your emotional IQ goes down. You just see problems. Where if you're light and free and see excited for every opportunity, you can see like take advantage of it. And asking people who know that and smarter than you, still very early in AI. So people are going to kill it over this next little phase. It's like being early into crypto, being early into social media, being early into web 2.0. Like, you know what I mean? Like whoever those who are earliest and recognize are the ones that are going to take advantage of it most.
Yeah.
And like you look at a lot of skill sets that you hire for, a lot of it's replaceable. There's no one's irreplaceable in my opinion, even like ourselves in terms of this business. We'll have an emotional attachment to it because we built it, blah, blah, blah. But like a lot of the mundane tasks that you normally hire out for in terms of like PAs or EAs or along those lines can just be automated through AI, which is exciting for us. Like, you know what I mean? I'm paying $50 a month for video technology, where instead of paying like content creators over that little period of a month, like 10x, 20x, 30x of what you normally pay.
Yeah, it's interesting. I did an interview with Davey Fogarty.
Yeah, I like him. He's the hoodies, the
Oodie, yeah.
Oodie,
the Oodie, before Christmas. And one of the profound things, like I'm a big picture guy, I just love thinking about, okay, where's the world going to be in 5 years? Like that, I'll spend probably too much time on YouTube, like researching and listening to people, and often can find myself getting caught up in that. And one of the most profound things that Davey said, which, you kind of understand is true, but it kind of hit me in the face a little bit. I'm like, what do you think the future is of this? And he's like, I don't care. He's like, honestly, he goes, because the value accrues to people who don't think about the future too much. They react to when things happen, right? So you can say, well, I think AI will be here, and yes, that should and can have an impact on what kind of business you build, but inevitably it's the people who react the quickest right now who accrue the value. So
always,
it's like, think about if you were to leverage let's use the writer as an example, that we were just talking about. If he leveraged AI right now and quadrupled his income, he would be in a much better position to build a business for the 5-year vision than what it would be if he was only thinking about that 5-year vision. That was profound for me. Was like, the world belongs to the quick, not the big, right? And so, you look back at the best entrepreneurs, they have this vision for the future, but they're actually the best at executing right now.
Yeah. It's probably the best way
Jobs,
to put it.
Elon, these guys, like...
And it's even just taking the time to understand it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just like doing some research or getting a good TikTok algorithm, which we talked about earlier. Like, there was a phase over Christmas where all I was getting was just AI programs and AI recommendations. And like, my mind was thinking, all right, cool. Like, how can I use this? And then bundle up in the course. And then like, this is where my mind was going. So, but yeah, like a lot of people like live out of fear, and a lot of people don't really have those entrepreneurial minds where they see the opportunity and everything. So, and it's always going to be that way, bro. No matter whatever happens after AI, the next thing is going to happen. It's always the same pattern recognition. Like, people are going to get onto it early. Like, health's a good example. Like, everyone knows how to get healthy, but how many people are overweight or obese? Like, everyone knows AI is coming, but like, how many people are going to actually use it? Like, it's just rinse and repeat, but the thing changes.
Yeah, like, it's like information isn't scarce, right? There's enough of it out there. Like, there's nothing that unless it's science that's that's truly innovating. Like, everything else is written in a book somewhere. It's on the internet for you to find, but it's like execution is inevitably it's the thing that will dictate your future.
And there's still always going to be human to human contact, because accountability is always important. Like, we have mentors, we have parents. Like, you're going to be a dad soon, so you can sort of chat GPT, all that stuff you want, but like, eventually you're going to have to be accountable to someone. Like, it's hard to be accountable to a computer, in my opinion, because some people aren't even accountable to their own alarms. Like, the alarm will go off and they'll hit snooze 20 times, you know what I mean? So you still need that person-to-person contact, but whoever can figure out the chat GPT and the person-to-person contact thing later, they're the ones that are going to kill it. Someone is out there right now. Obviously, Elon's started ChatGPT. This is just some young kid who's just going to figure it out, and he's just going to be the next guy, and then whatever next. It's just pattern recognition, man. Honestly.
Yeah, and that's the other thing as well. Is like we often. And that's I think I reckon if you asked me this 5 years ago, I would have been like, you get caught up in like looking at someone like Elon and thinking you have to have this massive idea, when inevitably you don't necessarily have to have this massive idea. You have to have a vision, but it doesn't have to be like fucking electronic cars or like, do you know what I mean? Like it's more like you just have to be able to execute over and over and over again, build discipline, have an idea, execute on the idea, and kind of drag your business continuously to that vision.
Imagine explaining Google to someone in the 60s. Like, there's going to be a phone in front of you. You can type anything in the whole wide world. You don't have to go to a library and search for it, and it's going to give you the answer. They would have gone, fuck, the world's about to end. Like, we're all going to be done. I mean, that's what AI is going to be for everyone in like 20 years. That's what social media was for us now. Like, hey, mum, I'm jumping on my phone. I'm going to post a photo of me. Like, now she's on Instagram and she's on Facebook. So it's just the same shit, bro. Honestly, it's just the same shit over and over again.
Yeah. Fuck, AI is crazy.
It is crazy.
Think like, you know, I don't even, like, this is what I mean. I get caught up thinking about what it'll be in like 10 years.
But imagine explaining this in like early 90s. Like, hey, you're going to watch everything on here. You can take a photo. You can call anyone in the world. You can get in contact with the most famous person in the world. People are going like, you're fucking crazy. And it's like that thin.
Yeah.
Like,
and I think the other thing is like Jobs didn't know that was the thing, right? Like, you know, he was building a computer first. Right. And so it is like, you know, Jobs never sat there and said, you know, like, this is the most revolutionary thing ever built in the world, ever, you know, apart from some of the early stuff like electricity and all that. But like, he didn't know that this was the thing until it was the moment in time that he had the idea for it. But that idea wasn't his first idea. And I like that as a concept, is like, it's kind of coming back to what that...
You don't have to know the answer
straight
away. Yeah.
Like, you never know the answer. Like, you think you do, but really it's what you build. Like, you know, how many people have the same ideas as, say, someone else, but it's like it's inevitably always the execution.
And it's funny you say that. Like, that made me reflect on my journey. So my first thing was I just wanted to live in Bali and get paid like a laptop lifestyle. At the time I was into taking photos. So in my mind I was like, if I can go take wedding like photos or something, that's how I'll monetize it. Then it moved into video, and then it moved into clothing. Now it's moved into podcasts. Like, that same scenario of like what you think's right at the time, you're probably best to go pursue that, because then that probably leads you into the next thing. And it's okay to change, it's okay to pivot, it's okay for things to be different as you envisioned them. But I think that's like the thing. Just do what you feel's right now, and don't fear the future, but just figure it out as it comes. But have an eye on the future, because that's how you grow quicker. So
yeah.
That's how I'm sort of seeing things.
Yeah, 100%. There's no way that even with my business now is not what I thought it was going to be.
What do you think you'll be doing?
Mate, honestly, I just thought podcasting was a great mechanism for businesses to gather attention, market, sell, even to a point. But, you know, the first thing we tried to do was build a bit of a network. And, you know, I just didn't... and then, like, my biggest realization was that... you know, like, influencers in a sense are just fucking hard to manage. You know, like, bro, there's a reason they're fucking influencers, right? Like, and I think that was like, so then we kind of went to becoming an agency and working with business owners. And so, you know, the iteration that it is now is nothing like I thought it was going to be, in a sense. I had no idea what it was going to be, to be honest, at the beginning, but just thought, you know, we wanted to play in the space. So yeah, it's a cool conversation. What do you see the future of content and commerce? Like, you know, we've talked about this, you know, previously, but how are you seeing it now with the convergence of, say, some of these other technologies? Where do you think the space is going?
I think it'll always sort of stay the same. Like, valuable content's always going to win. Like, if you can make someone think, if you can make someone laugh, that's always going to be valuable skill sets. Commerce is always just going to be attached to it. It's just going to be a lot more broad, where I think it's going to build more around individual people more so than like your traditional Nikes or Adidas. Like you'll start to see brands built more around individuals like Kanye West and those types of things. But I think it's just going to be a lot more available for everyone. So everyone's going to be building your own personal brand. You're going to be do it, but there's going to be a system that you can tap into, sell clothes off straight away and do ad revenue, stuff like that. I just think it's always going to be the same. If you can make something entertaining, educational, it's always going to be the winners.
Yeah.
Good-looking people are always going to be relevant in the world. People don't like to hear that, but if a good-looking girl walks past, we're going to look, you know what I mean? It doesn't, the platform changes, but the core concept doesn't.
Yeah, that's true. So do you think, you kind of said it before, I think, but it was like and the platforms are changing. Like, do you think that, like, I often sometimes feel like websites are going to be an interesting space. Like you see what like TikTok's doing, like TikTok Shop, Instagram are doing it as well. Like reducing the friction between content and the purchase.
Yeah, imagine like being in PayPal, they've done the one-click things. Imagine if we can get to the point where you can just see it. You don't even like takes away friction. As a guy's brand, we'd love that. So if you go into our website and it takes 4 pages for you to get to the checkout, like a lot of our guys are going to tap out because as males, we don't like friction. But yeah, that sort of stuff's really interesting. And maybe if you can get to a point where it's even on story. So imagine if you walk around on a story, I know you can do the thing now, but you just press one button. Like anything that limits friction, especially in content and commerce, is just going to equate to more sales. And it's hard. It's going to be a harder cut through because everyone's going to have a clothing brand soon, or everyone's going to have like, and it's always going to be like a Royal Rumble. The best is always going to rise to the top. They get the most attention. They get more people on the website. So it's going to be harder. It's going to be a lot harder. Easy entrance point. Like a lot of things, like say PT's an easy entrance point, very competitive. Real estate agents, easy entrance point, very competitive. I think content's just going to be that. And it should be. It's an easy entrance point, but the best is always going to win.
Have you seen Ryan Serhant's business?
No.
Do you know Ryan Serhant?
Who's he?
He's like a real estate influencer.
Is he doing all the pills, like the caps content? He goes, is he an Asian dude?
Nah. He's like got grey hair.
No.
But I'm pretty sure, and for anyone listening, don't hold this to me, but I'm pretty sure he's built a real estate company that sells with content and content only, and it's completely, it's non-location dependent. So I think like what he's done is he's like, you know, you can, real estate's agencies, I think it's only America, but all around America, you literally, like you just have to create content. And be able to sell. Like you don't have to work from a specific location.
Yeah.
And basically just uses TikTok to sell properties.
And he's killing it.
Oh, he was already killing it.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure, because his whole thing was like YouTube. He was a YouTuber, crushed it on that, like built a massive following. And then I think now he's purely selling real estate through content, which is wild.
I mean, imagine it gets to a point where we go VR sets, you know what I mean? That's probably like the next iteration of it, where instead of lining up behind, like Sydney's rife. So if you go to a rental property, you have to line up for like 80 people for like a 1-bedroom apartment in Bondi, and it's fucking a shithole. Where imagine it gets to the VR point, like AI's already coming, but VR, you can just sit there and go through properties and you don't have to leave your house. Like I think it's going to get to that point, like pretty soon, eh?
For experiences.
I think it'll get to a point where instead of us, like our parents got home, watch TV for 8 hours, we go home, sit on our phone for fucking 8 hours. I think eventually it gets to a point where we end up putting on VR sets, or the other way around, where we go to work in VR. So our 9 to 5s in this sort of VR space, and then when we come home, we just sort of live that sort of real world life. Do you look at VR much, or?
I'm skeptical on it. I've done it.
Have you put a VR set on?
It's amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. Like, it's crazy. It's next level. I just don't know what the use case is. Like, I know I get what you're saying, and I think there will be a use case for that. And I just don't know. Like, I'm kind of...
Well, what about you run an event and then there's a live experience, and obviously there's a virtual one, but then they can put on the virtual experience and you can sell that. Imagine in terms of fitness, you get a treadmill in your house and you're strapped in and you buy the David Goggins subscription and you're running and you look to the left and you got Goggins on the left going about, you know what I mean? Or the sporting experience. Like, I see it like that for experiences, which is going to be cool, where you don't have to travel 16 hours to go to Coachella. There's someone sort of sitting there and you're looking up and Eminem's performing in front of you. So I definitely think it's got that. I don't know how far away that is, but I think if you put on a VR set and you understand, like, you can still feel like the feeling of a roller coaster on the ups and downs, much like a dream. I think it's like pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I don't know. I 100% it'll be a thing. I just don't know what the level will be. You know, like, I don't know whether it will make it. And again, like, it's just because I probably haven't looked at it enough as a technology and what the use cases are. Like, I know Facebook invested pretty heavily into it. I don't know. What I mean is I don't know how big the market will get, right? So, like, what experiences will it hit for and what it won't? Like, I can see it massive in gaming.
Yeah, gaming
I think meetings will be big. But again, like, it's hard to tell. Like, again,
maybe it starts through the gaming system, moves into business, and then sort of filters into sort of real life.
Yeah.
But like, I still think it's a while off. Like I've got one at home, but I've probably used it 24 hours of my whole life. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I get like nauseous from it. So it feels like I'll get car sick from it. So that's like an issue that I've had to deal with.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. That one's a watch, I reckon. Like, it's kind of like, I wouldn't be surprised if it only gets used in gaming.
You don't think it's got like real world utility?
I don't think humans will, like, yeah, I don't think humans, I feel like there's still an essence that has to be captured. You know, like there's the thing itself and then there's the essence of the thing. I think that's the big hurdle. Is like a lot of people, like, you know, a lot of people won't eat a certain food because of the essence of it. They've never tried it. But they're like, I don't want to try that. I don't like it. You know, I'll eat anything.
Yeah.
Right. And I get frustrated when I sit at a dinner table with someone and they're like, no, I don't like it. I'm like, have you tried it? Like, no, I don't want to try it. And there's like that essence of the thing, you know, maybe it's slimy looking, so they won't eat it.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the hurdle. It's like the experience of it is amazing, but the essence of me, like, I'm not someone who would say, like, okay, I'll spend 4 hours a night in a VR headset. I'd be like, no, that's not me. So I'm not going to do it. Do you know what I mean?
I reckon it'll follow the sort of social media path where it'll start with kids and then obviously a little bit get older. And then eventually Gary Vee talks about like the grandma syndrome. So once their grandkids are on, mum wants to jump on Facebook or mum wants to jump on TikTok because their kids, they want to see that. I think it'll just follow that sort of path, just in my opinion. And it might not be like they're going to spend 4 hours a night on it. But I think over time, most people will have one in their house. Might just be a form of entertainment for the kids. Instead of throwing them an iPad, they can do stuff like that. Imagine this. Imagine if you combined, you can do it already with voices and stuff, but imagine if there was a program with a VR set that you jump on and AI pops up of a dead relative that's passed on, and you can sit there and have conversations and it goes back and forth, and there's a subscription for that. You know what I mean? It's sort of, I do get the, like, I believe in, like, there should be death, because it makes you appreciate life and everything should have an ending. But imagine if you could sit there and talk to your nana. Like, we could sit here like this and you look over and there's AI of your nana who's passed away and you can have a conversation with her. Imagine shit like that. That'll be fucking scary.
Yeah, definitely. And there is those iterations of it, 100%. I mean,
I think I'm just going,
yeah,
I'm just drifting up everywhere.
There'll be a convergence. That's what I reckon. Like, you know, how does AI fit in with VR that fits in with, you know, whatever these other technologies are? Like, there will be a convergence. I just don't know what it looks like yet and what the right use case is. Like, I struggle to see the use case of VR. And it doesn't mean that there won't be one, of course, like, you know, but it's more just like, I don't know, like, it's not, obviously we've only seen what Facebook have done with, you know, with what they've been able to build. And they obviously invested a lot in it. So, you know, they probably see something that I don't, but yeah, I'm skeptical on that. That's like, out of all the technologies, like, if you think about crypto, Web3,
they all make sense. Like, you can put real world utility to them straight away. Yeah, I know what you're saying. I can see where you're coming from too.
Yeah.
I'm just like the big fucking dreamer. Like, yeah.
yeah.
Like, imagine on Saturday night, instead of going out, you can drink at home, put on, and you can go back to like a 70s party, or you could go to like a Justin Bieber concert without leaving your home. It sounds kind of sad, like, when I think about it, because
that's what I mean, right? So that's the point I'm making, is like that essence. Like, it's that sad, it sounds sad. So like, it might, and it's not to say that it will always sound that way. There's always like a point in time where you get that shift. It's like, you know, spending 7 hours a day on social media sounds sad, but everybody does it. So it's like the adoption of the technology in a sense.
Yeah. I think there's a bit of friction there for you for that. But that Ready Player One movie, like the big storyline of that is like in VR they couldn't taste food. So like do you know what I mean? Have you seen that movie, Ready Player One?
No.
Have you not seen it?
No.
Have you seen that? Fucking great movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've heard about it.
Yeah, he talks about VR, but basically the core essence of the storyline is like it's just not as good as the real world, which is like the one that we're actually living in. So I don't know. It would be interesting to see how it plays out.
100%.
Imagine 10 years from now we come back to this and see who's right or wrong.
Well, you'll be in Sydney, I'll be in Melbourne. We'll be podcasting through VR, right?
Yeah.
There's always that.
It's interesting. I get excited by it all. To be honest.
100%. We'll go into the last section, which is quick fire. We've done this before, but I wanted to throw a question at you, which is like a bit of a different one, which is and this is something that I always think about is, and I feel like they're great stories, but there's also great lessons for them, is like, what's the epitome of your startup story, right? Or like like there's wild stories of people in startups, like working from the garage, like Steve Jobs launched Apple in his garage. What is the wildest story that you've had from within your start, being in a startup?
Oh, it's probably not that wild, but I remember like one of the most happiest I've ever been was the day I got my first wage from YKTR. So we'd be going for about a year. I'd almost ended up broke. Kind of reminds me of this sort of scenario, like how I was feeling at the time. I thought we were almost out of business. I thought my savings was almost up. And I approached the boys like, hey, I want to get paid. And my first pay was like $25K for the year. And I'd come from being like a professional athlete, being on six figures and stuff like that. That amount of money, I don't think I'll ever be able to replicate the feeling I had on that day. I just remember driving home, and all it wasn't more so about the money, but it probably validated the idea that it was good enough that I could get paid from it. Where when I looked around me, there wasn't too many examples of people who've done it in my area, my space, my upbringing. It sort of just felt like I was validated from that, and I've way more money than that in my time in certain areas, but I've just never really felt the same as that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know it's only a small thing, but at the time, I felt like the biggest thing in the world.
Yeah, 100%. It's the euphoria, right? That comes with the the achievement.
I've got all the cliche, like we started in a house, but it's kind of like everyone does that now. It doesn't sound as cool anymore because like a lot of people can start businesses, but we've had some pretty crazy moments. Like I talk about this often, where this kid committed suicide and he was a twin, and he loved YKTR so much that his twin brother buried him in YKTR clothes. Like that type of impact is like the other part of the scale, but I don't know. It's just all happened so quick, bro. But those are the two things that really stick out to me.
Yep, love it. So this is usually I ask one piece of advice for your younger self. What's one piece of advice you would give to yourself in the first 24 hours of the scenario that you kind of just went through?
I seen this micro concept and I said like this too will pass, like, and that it's as simple as that. Like what felt like the biggest thing in the world at the time, like it'll pass and things come, things go. There's like a sort of flow to life, and that's it. Like I had people telling me it, but I just couldn't hear it. I was just so angry and zoned in and frustrated and sad and these waves of emotions. Probably another part is probably to ride it out. Like I said here 2 weeks later, I feel like calm, but I probably wouldn't have felt calm if I wasn't feeling those things. Like, they say, if you don't feel, you can't heal. Maybe that's probably the better piece of advice. Not this too shall pass, but write it out. Understand it. Don't say anything emotional because you'll regret it. But just accept the moment for what it is. And when it's great, you can sit there with gratitude and happiness, and we sit there happily. But when things are going bad, we don't want to wallow in our own pity. We try and avoid it. I think it's okay to sit in those sort of moments to understand that it will pass, but it's okay to be sad. And in the context of life, like someone had lost their father that day, or people had drowned in New Zealand but it's okay to not measure sadness. Like sometimes I do in those phases where I'm like, oh, they're way off, but it's okay to be sad about losing a staff member or breaking up or anything. It's okay. Like But I think it's important to accept those emotions before you move on. Because if you block them out, later on in life, they pop up and then, I don't know, you're doing stupid shit.
Yeah, 100%. What's the most important trait that a founder must have for success and why?
Perseverance, we sort of touched on before. And probably I find a lot of people can bring up problems, but they don't follow it up with a solution. Like one of the rules we used to have in the office, like if you don't have a solution, don't explain the problem. So I think perseverance and problem solving are the two big ones.
How do you think those two things, do you think they're obviously really interrelated? You know, like troubleshooting and perseverance. Like if you don't persevere, you're probably not going to troubleshoot.
Nah, they're probably important because like if you're troubleshooting, you probably can pivot like you have, where if you persevere in the wrong direction, you just end up wasting a couple of years. So they're kind of like side by side, but they can steer you in different directions. So very important.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
Mate, I want to say thank you for coming on the podcast. Thanks for being so open as well.
Yep.
I think we covered a lot, but there's
more
a lot
very
of
AI.
Yeah. We went from, fucking managing a business, losing staff to replacing them with AI.
I think that's what's going to happen too. That's what I'm trying to do anyway. So
but again, massive appreciation for you coming on the podcast.
Thanks, bro. What's next for you? I was just interested. Obviously, personal life, I know what's going on there, but business-wise, what's next for you?
Business-wise, mate, honestly, we're at a point now where I feel like I'm in the most mature that I've ever been in business, in terms of maybe just understanding how it develops. And
you've got so many reference points too, because you podcast.
Mate, that's what I mean. Like, honestly, that's the one thing I'm so grateful for is that, I think last year we did 48 interviews, or 49, and we only missed 3 weeks. And so I've just talked to it's such a diverse group of people. Like I've had the managing director of Country Road. I've had Mark Ritson, who's taught at London Business School like just such a diverse range of people. But I've also really tried to learn from that. And I think I'm just at a point now where even myself, I'm just a little bit more mature. I'm grateful for the mistakes that I've made. Like I've owned a business since I was 18. Like I've actually never had a job, ever. Right. So, but also I think there's a negative side to that, which is I feel like when you have a job, you kind of can learn how a business operates from seeing other people do it around you. Like I've probably gone the slow route, I reckon. And just through making a lot of mistakes. But I feel like I'm the most mature. So I think for me now, it's just, I think of our business as, are we in an upward market? I think like that's something that I always, I feel like we are. Like, content space is an upward market. I feel like that's going to grow massively. Do we have a solution that's differentiated? I would say we're in a space that's differentiated, like we're positioned in that way. And then, now it's just...
Speed's a good differentiation for content. Like, guys, you got very quick turnaround.
Yeah. So
that's like, to me, that was like, oh, cool, this is impressive.
Exactly, right? And so we were like, we think the next iteration, like the first iteration of content and commerce, this kind of collision, digital commerce in a sense, was creators and influencers. And we think that the next iteration is a lot of the big brands coming into the space, right? They're seeing what Logan Paul's done, what Kimmy K, $3.2 billion valuation, Mr. Beast, most successful burger launch in history. And I feel like the next iteration is the companies, the big brands coming into this space. And so for us, we built a solution to capture them, where it was to what do they value? Speed, right? They want things done quickly, efficiently. Doesn't need to be the most creative thing in the world.
No.
But so like that would, and then just doing more of that. So not varying off that, but doubling down on what makes us us and going as hard as we can, as quick as we can.
Yeah.
And then structure, we talked about it before, but like, how do you build your business? I feel like structure is one of the biggest things that you don't learn in the early days, that I've only learnt probably from, people like Danny, and building different structures. So the next thing for us is just, following through on this vision, you know, kind of the stuff that we've been talking about is not making it too fancy, but just going harder at this one thing.
Deeper into scaling it, eh? Because you get to a point where you have fucking 5 of these studio rooms, and if they're all going at once and you got producers and retainers, fuck, it starts to get pretty interesting pretty quickly.
Exactly. So like the structure's the biggest thing. Like we've got that down pat right now. We know what our plan is for 10 studios, 20 studios. Like that's our goal. So we know what that looks like. So it's just about execution. Like it's nothing different of what we've just talked about. You know, vision.
It's all the same shit, eh?
Yeah, it is. And I think like a lot of it is...
The product or service changes, that's it.
Yeah.
Everything else is similar.
It's like, just fucking don't get distracted. Like I think like that's probably what that's probably what I would say my biggest downfall's been over the last 10 years. If I think about... I've said to you, I've owned businesses since I was 18 and they've all done well, but like none of them have gotten to the heights that I thought they would get to.
Yeah.
So this one, and I think it's because I got distracted. I did too many things.
Yeah.
And I think now it's just like, no, this is it. Have a plan, execute on that plan, and don't get distracted.
Yeah, I think that's some advice from me too.
But man,
are you talking to me there? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like you don't need to, like often in business you can be hard on yourself, and you can and a lot of that can cause you to be emotional. And I think just accepting whatever's happened to you that you think is a negative is actually a positive.
Yeah, for sure.
And man, I'm 30 this year. 30's young. It's fucking young. That's the other thing. I feel like you got a lot of time, and if you can learn to use time, and that comes from being patient. It comes from doing. I don't need to do a lot of different things. I just need to do one thing. And be more disciplined over time at it, and just stay steady to the vision.
That's it, bro. That's a lesson from this podcast.